beautiful sight. We've been preparing for this for several months now, but just the sight of it is just overwhelming. Now I'll go to script. Welcome to the 23rd opening of Harvard-Westlake School and to our first ever all-school convocation. Welcome, honored guests. Yeah, okay. Welcome, honored guests. Welcome, Harvard-Westlake faculty and staff, and welcome especially Harvard-Westlake students. Dear students, I speak on behalf of all your teachers. We missed you. We really did. We enjoy your company and are delighted to be back in school with you once again. We are two campuses, but one school, and this convocation celebrates our unity in a most significant way. We are Harvard-Westlake, and we are all here together. Okay, a special shout out for the two groups of students seated intentionally and symbolically next to each other in the best seats on the field, the bleachers. First, to the newest and youngest students, the members of the class of 2019, welcome to Harvard-Westlake. Seated next to them, the class of 2014. The class of 2000. All right, now I'm going to tell you how special you are. The class of 2014 is a special link in the long history of our school. They were the first 7th graders to inhabit our new middle school campus, and they will graduate in the year we commemorate the 100th anniversary of the oldest Harvard-Westlake building, St. Saviour's Chapel. Individually and collectively, they have been bridge builders in our community, connecting with and supporting each other and leading us toward healing during times of deep sorrow. In advance of their year term as official school leaders, we congratulate and thank the senior class. It has been our practice for the past several years to introduce a character education theme or motto at the beginning of each school year and to announce it at opening convocation. The mottos are intended to be aspirational, to give voice to our values. They give all of us common language, a common experience, and a point of departure for conversations about character. This year's motto highlights the importance of courage. I suggest that if there is a single quality you will need to lead a good life, not necessarily an easy life, but a good life, it is courage. Courage to say yes, as in yes I can or yes I'll try, and courage to say no, as in no this isn't right, not now, not ever. Tomorrow marks the 50th anniversary of the Washington March for Freedom led by Martin Luther King, and we would all do well to take that opportunity to reflect on Dr. King's message and appreciate anew his deep commitment to justice and his uncommon courage. Acting courageously in times of moral crisis or in the face of danger is indeed heroic. As important, though, is courage on a smaller scale. Displays of courage in our everyday actions when we are called upon to abandon self-interest and choose the hard right over the easy wrong. Such instances might include standing up for someone who has been ridiculed or embarrassed, getting involved with someone who needs a little or even a lot of help, or digging into our resources to support a good cause. Courage is linked to resiliency, another quality you will want to cultivate. Resilient people bounce back and they bounce forward, and the bouncing forward part in particular takes courage. To lead a good life, you will need courage. The great thing about courage is that, unlike innate talent or good looks or athletic ability, there is no limit on how much you can have. Courage can be developed. It is a renewable resource. If you didn't have courage the last time you needed it, you can still get some before you will need it again. Where does courage come from? The word itself comes from the Latin word for heart. Nearly 3,000 years ago, the Chinese philosopher and poet Lao Tzu linked those two ideas together in a single sentence. 4 words that will now serve as this year's character motto. From caring comes courage. In the act of going outside ourselves and genuinely and deeply caring about some person or some idea, we naturally build up a reservoir of courage which we can tap into when needed. When you need courage, look for it in your heart. I mentioned a few minutes ago that today's convocation was unique and special. That is partly because it is the occasion when most of you will be introduced to Harvard-Westlake's new president, Mr. Commons. Opening convocation has always included investiture ceremonies for student council members and prefects. To that, we have added a very special event, the investiture of our new president. To conduct that ceremony, we are honored to have with us today another leader and a great friend of our school, the chair of the Harvard-Westlake Board of Trustees, Mrs. Christine Haase. To all of you, have a wonderful school year, and now Mrs. Haase.
I'm honored to be here on this special occasion. Richard Commons, you have been called by the Board of Trustees to lead our school. As president, you will share the burden of responsibility for the vigor, the quality, and the integrity of the faculty, the staff, and student life at Harvard-Westlake. Will you be diligent in the performance of this office?
I will.
Will you try faithfully to execute the duties of your office to the best of your ability, without fear or favor?
I will.
Will you strive to make yourself a wholesome example to this school and be ambitious, not for yourself, but for the welfare of the entire school community?
I will.
And will you strive without fear or favor to exercise moral leadership within the community of Harvard-Westlake School?
I will.
And you, Richard Commons, in addition to the promises already made, in the execution of your particular responsibilities as president, in fulfilling the tasks and answering the call put forward to you by members of this community, will you be diligent and faithful to the best of your abilities?
I will.
Honored to present to you Richard Commons.
Thank you, Mrs. Haase. Thank you, everyone. Special thanks to the Jazz Explorers who have not yet received attention. They were fabulous this morning. Congratulations. At this time, I would like to ask the head and senior prefects and their sponsors to stand. You guys want to step forward? Around behind. Head and senior prefects, you have been chosen prefects by your peers. You are to be congratulated. As prefects, you will share the burden of responsibility for the vigor, quality, and integrity of student life at Harvard-Westlake. Will you be diligent in the performance of this office?
We will.
Will you try faithfully to execute the duties of your office to the best of your ability without fear or favor? Will you strive to make yourselves wholesome examples to this school and be ambitious not for yourselves, but for the welfare of your fellow students in this community?
We will.
Will you strive, without fear or favor, to exercise moral leadership within the student body of Harvard-Westlake School?
We will.
And you, Ashley and Henry, in addition to the promises already made in the execution of your particular responsibilities as head prefects, in leading your fellow prefects, in chairing the honor board, in fulfilling the tasks and answering the call put forward to you by the members of this community, will you be diligent and faithful to the best of your abilities?
We will.
Ashley Sachs and Henry Hahn, I invest you as head prefects. Mazel Edasami, Oliver Goodman-Waters, Greg Lehrhoff, Milana Wheat, I invest you as senior prefects. Congratulations to the head prefects and senior prefects. And now will the junior and sophomore prefects please come forward and stand. As prefects, you have been chosen by the members of your class to represent and serve them, and to represent and serve the community as a whole. Will you strive to carry out this duty honestly, diligently, and to the best of your ability? Will you strive to make yourselves wholesome examples to this school and ambitious not for yourselves, but for the welfare of your fellow students and this community?
We will.
Will you strive without fear or favor to exercise moral leadership within the student body of Harvard-Westlake School?
We will.
Please step forward when your name is announced. Jackson Beavers, Albert Choi, Rachel Persky, Sarah Winchell. Hunter Brookman, Grace Pan, Shelby Weiss, Alec Winchell. For all of you, one of your duties as prefects is to sit as necessary as the honor board for our community. As such, you have been selected by your peers to uphold and perpetuate the values embedded in the honor code. This is a weighty responsibility. Do you affirm your commitment to uphold the principles of trust, honesty, and integrity in your duties, sitting as the honor board, and in your everyday lives as members of the Harvard-Westlake community?
We do.
Will you undertake these responsibilities with fairness and impartiality?
We will.
Having heard you affirm your commitment to the principles manifested in the honor code, I vest in you the authority to do what is right, fair, and just in our community under its honor code. And now to the audience, will all of you who have witnessed the inauguration of these elected officers, your chosen leaders, do all in your power to support them in the work they have promised to do? And now I would ask that our new head prefects read our honor code.
As a member of the Harvard-Westlake School community, I will let my conscience be my guide in my everyday actions and endeavors at Harvard-Westlake. I will neither give nor receive unauthorized aid as defined by my teacher, both explicitly and implicitly, from any source on exams, homework, quizzes, papers, or any other academic endeavor.
I will not steal or violate others' property, either academic or material. I will not violate the person of others or the person of the school. I will pledge my honesty to the school community, and I expect others to be responsible and to do the same. On all my work, my name affirms my honor.
Will all of you, having heard these words, all in the audience, do all in your power to abide by and support the Harvard-Westlake Honor Code? Congratulations to our new prefects. You may take your seats. Now will the 8th and 9th grade officers please come forward and stand. You, the elected middle school officers, in taking your oath of office in the presence of the Harvard-Westlake faculty and your classmates, accept the following responsibilities. Please respond by stating "we will" after I have named each of your responsibilities. You will keep and uphold school rules. You will work selflessly for the good of your individual classes and for the general well-being of the school community. You will set a positive example for other student groups to follow. You will demonstrate leadership rather than simply endorse popular opinion. You will act as representatives of your class, voicing student needs and concerns. You will make niceness and neatness watchwords of our life at Harvard-Westlake. You will cooperate with faculty and schoolmates to ensure the successful development of an effective middle school council. Please repeat after me. We accept all these responsibilities.
We accept all these responsibilities.
Knowing that we will be supported. By the faculty and by our classmates. Let me present to you the new 8th and 9th grade officers for the 2013-14 school year. Congratulations, you may be seated. And now your newly invested head prefects have a few remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Commons. Before I begin, there's just one thing you need to know about me. My friends know it, many of my teachers know this, and now all of you will know. I am Jewish, and I tend to be very traditional. So I grew up being told a story that I would like to begin by sharing with all of you. There once was a man whose name was Rabbi Zusia, and Rabbi Zusia believed in God. But every day, he woke up worried, terrified, in fact. Why? Well, Rabbi Zusia was old, he was sick, and quite frankly, he knew he was about to die. He worried that when he got to what he believed would be heaven, God would look at him, judge his life, and be disappointed. He worried that God would ask, "Why were you not more like Abraham or Moses? Why were you not more like one of our founding fathers or one of our great leaders?" But when Rabbi Zusia finally made it to heaven, God did not ask him any of these questions. Instead, God asked Rabbi Zusia, "Why were you not more like Rabbi Zusia?" If you take away the religious elements of the story I just shared, the message still stands loud and clear. Now take a second to look in front of you, look behind you, look to your left and to your right. The people you see sitting around you are just like you. We all wake up early. We all make our way to Harvard-Westlake, whether it be the lower school or the upper school. Some of us play sports, some of us may act in theater productions. But all of us have the same drive, passion, and dedication to succeed in everything we put our minds to. But let's get back to Rabbi Zusia for a minute. He was worried that he would be judged because he was not a great leader, and because he did not have a name or a title attached to his name that was recognized by all, like president or vice president, or dare I say, head prefect. But what Rabbi Zusia soon came to realize was, as cliche as it sounds, it wasn't about changing his passions or pretending to be someone he wasn't in order to impress others, fit in with the crowd, or be like those around him. All that mattered was how much he showed his true colors and his true self to those around him. This concept is something we can all relate to. If we're being honest, we attend Harvard-Westlake, one of the most incredible and widely known high schools in all of America. Sitting here today is an accomplishment for all of us. What we do here at Harvard-Westlake prepares us to succeed in life. But what some of us may see more immediately is that it prepares us to succeed through an application process that involves a person probably sitting behind a desk, reading just a few pieces of paper to, well, judge us, and ultimately see if he or she thinks we are a good fit for their school. So that's great. They look at our past, and all we care about is our future. I think the ongoing jokes are that you either need to create the cure for cancer, go to Africa, or do something incredible, or have some sort of life-changing experience that makes you different. All of these things are big and extravagant, kind of like titles, like president or vice president or head prefect. But this idea is such a misconception. You don't need to be a big leader to make a difference and do something great, whether it be for the world around you, your community, or better yet, our school. I'm going to finish with one more thing that hopefully ties what I'm trying to say all together. I want you to think about the most mundane drink there is, water. Now take that water and fill up a pot of it. Take the pot and bring it over to the stove. What do you do now? Well, you turn the knob, ignite a small fire, and the water begins to warm up. It starts at about room temperature, 70 or so degrees, but as the fire beneath it persists, the temperature begins to rise, 1 degree at a time. When the water gets to about 211 degrees, what happens? Nothing. The water is still just water. But as the fire burns on for just a few more seconds, something miraculous happens. The water begins to boil. That boiling water creates steam, and steam can power trains and engines that carry millions of people all over the world. Now take a minute and think. How did this water begin to boil? It began with you. It began with the fire beneath it that you ignited. No matter who we are or what titles we have, we all have the power to make the water boil. We just have to take advantage of it. Harvard-Westlake, I want to challenge you. This year, start by being yourself and doing what you love here at school. The arts, sciences, athletics, join the Breaking Bad Club if that's what you love to do. And put in that extra bit of effort. Work just a little bit harder, even when you think you can't, and go that extra degree, because I promise you, something miraculous will happen. And with that, I want to wish everyone good luck. Go out there and do something incredible, have fun, and have an amazing year. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Henry Hahn and I'm your other head prefect for this year. There are many of you in this audience who I'm well acquainted with, and it's great to be back with you all to start the upcoming school year. And to those of you that I don't know, it's wonderful to meet you all in such an intimate setting. Half a decade may not seem like such a long time to some of the people in this audience, but to me it's crazy to think that that's how long it's been since many of my peers and I first arrived at Harvard-Westlake's doorstep. I remember on my arrival feeling distinctly overwhelmed. Harvard-Westlake was a big school and it had a big reputation. Its curriculum, I was told, would be rigorous, its students competitive, and the teachers both harsh and unforgiving. And unfortunately, it's all true. Especially the part about the teachers. But jokes aside, on paper this place is downright daunting, and there's no getting around it. Forbes recently ranked Harvard-Westlake as the best school in California, 12th nationally. To go off of last year's certifications, we have the best newspaper in the state, the best baseball team in the country, and our AP scores and college acceptances, quite frankly, speak for themselves. But being completely honest, I find that too often the pride that accompanies attending one of the most prestigious schools in the country is often equally matched by an unspoken sense of insecurity and intimidation. And I must admit that upon arrival, I too was daunted by these same fears. I viewed myself as a fairly average and unimpressive kid, and I thought to myself, where could I possibly fit in along such a diverse and talented student body? So I took the advice that many had given me, and I just tried my best to just get involved. But unfortunately, that meant experiencing a number of failures in my first year here. I started a filmmaking club that couldn't attract any members or produce a single film. I joined a debate team, and lost every round I competed in. And to top it all off, ran for student council in 7th grade, and I lost. But no failure in my first year here stands out to me quite as much as running track and field. I know what you're thinking. I was encouraged by my deans and teachers to expand beyond my horizons and try things I didn't necessarily think I was good at, like athletics. So I decided in the spring to join the track and field team running the mile. And I will say it was probably the most productive experience I have ever embarked on in my time here at Harvard-Westlake, because I learned a tremendous amount about myself. What exactly did I learn? Well, I learned that there aren't enough pejorative adjectives in the English language to describe what a disaster I was as a track runner. For starters, I came in last place in every single race that season, but it's worse than it sounds. Sometimes I would be rounding that final bend, and I'd actually bump into other athletes who were just kind of walking across the track, and I guess they thought the race was over, but I was actually still finishing up. And you know you're really bad when parents from the other schools start cheering for you when you finally cross the finish line. So I learned that I could make a name for myself by how bad I was at running. But what else did I learn? Well, I learned something that, to me, was pretty astounding. I realized that no matter how talented everyone else on the team was, people really didn't seem to care how bad I was at running. It actually kind of became something that people started rallying around. I remember when I would show up at practices, the coaches were determined to either find the right event for me or get me to surpass just at least one of the other runners. It never worked, but they always tried. And at one meet, during what became my usual dismal performance, I was on my last lap long after the other runners had finished the race. It was only me on the track, but I realized that I wasn't actually alone. I looked up and saw on the sidelines my teammates, who I barely knew, Alex McNabb, Connor Belfield, Andrew Friendly, and unsurprisingly our current head fanatic, Connor Kalantari, standing there, cheering me on and telling me to just finish strong. And that was a turning point for me, because it was at that moment that I realized I could be the biggest failure this school had ever seen, but my peers still weren't going to judge me for it. Unfortunately, I can't stand up here today and tell you that I gradually progressed or that I trained in the fashion of Rocky Balboa until I was the triumphant underdog coming in first place at all the meets, because that's just not how my story ended. But I can tell you that by the end of the season, there was not a single event where I ran on that track alone in uncomfortable silence. And I can tell you that no one ever made me feel out of place for being the bottom of the barrel of the middle school track team. And every failure I had made up until that point became completely irrelevant to me, because I realized that if I just tried, that would be everything. And so ironically, that last failure ended up empowering me. It lifted a burden and gave me the feeling that I could try anything because I really had nothing to lose. So I ran again for student council at the end of the year, and as it turned out, I actually won. The reason I'm telling you all of these stories today is because it's easy, given the reputation of the school and the incredible achievements of its student body, to think that you're in a community that is wholly concerned with the output and the end results. But I think the best thing any of us can do on the first day of school is to just get that notion out of our heads, because it's so far from the truth. Our teachers, coaches, advisors are all here for the process of learning, and they value the efforts of those who step outside their comfort zone and take risks. You know, the older I get, the more I realize we're all prisoners of the space-time continuum. We pass through these moments only once in our lives. Never again will my peers in the senior class have to sit on the uncomfortable bleachers in the middle of summer listening to some boring prefects drone on about getting involved in student activities. And I'm sure most of you are probably thinking, hey, that's not such a bad thing. But imagine if Garcetti hadn't taken that politics course, or imagine if Jason Siegel hadn't tried out for a school play. Their lives and their destiny could have turned out completely different. And that is the trap of time and space. We're only here once, and we don't have an infinite number of chances to get things right. So with that in mind, I encourage all of us to embrace this moment in our lives, make the most of everything this wonderful school has to offer, and above all, don't be afraid to fail. Get involved and stay involved, and always encourage the efforts of others, just as so many of you here in this audience have encouraged me throughout my experience at this wonderful place. Thank you, and have a great first day.
What an honor to be with all of you on this glorious first day of school. Thank you, Mrs. Hazy, for the robe you've placed on my shoulders and for the faith that you and the Board of Trustees have placed in me. Thank you, Dr. Hybrex, for your introduction to this ceremony and for our partnership in leading this great school. Thank you, Ashley and Henry, for your powerful words, reminding us to be ourselves, to be willing to fail, and to be open to inspiration in unlikely places. Thank you to faculty, staff, and students for focusing this morning on our school community and gathering as one body to ring in this new year. As Dr. Hybrecht said, this is the first time in the history of Harvard-Westlake that we have all been together in the same place, at the same time, with the same purpose. Drawing together our two sides of the mountain has not been simple, but here we are, with thanks primarily to the indefatigable maintenance staff at Harvard-Westlake. Let's give them a round of applause, shall we? Finally, thanks to my family, who are here with us today. My wife, Lindsay, Harvard-Westlake class of '96. My son, Matthew, 6 years old and about to begin first grade. And daughter, Clara, 3 years old, who will begin pre-kindergarten. Thank you for being here with me on my first day of school. I spent most of the summer getting to know my wonderful colleagues among the administration, faculty, and staff. But something has been decidedly missing on both campuses until this morning. The 1,600 students who are the sole reason Harvard-Westlake exists. I've been waiting a long time to meet all of you. In the last few days, I have had the opportunity to meet some of you. My 9th grade English class this morning, a number of seniors at their barbecue the other day, a handful of sophomores at their orientation yesterday. I watched the boys' water polo team take it to Murrieta on Saturday morning. And I received a visit from the football captains who were taking a short break from their preparations for beating Loyola this Friday night. Then I paid a visit to the denizens of Weiler Hall, the headquarters of the best student newspaper in the state. I think it's the best student newspaper in the country. I also had an inspiring lunch on Friday with the 6 senior prefects whom we've just invested this morning. We talked about a lot of things. We had a lot of time as Greg Laroff here had to finish off an 18-ounce hamburger, a bowl of mac and cheese, and a slice of banana cream pie the size of a shoebox. It was an impressive performance. The part of our conversation that was most meaningful and important, I think, was our talk about teachers. I had asked the prefects to tell me why they had chosen the teachers they asked to do the honor of robing them in this morning's ceremony. Here's what they said. Since day one, this teacher has been there for me with whatever I need, and I know I can count on him to help me with anything. Another said, I chose this teacher because she put a great deal of faith in me as a middle schooler, and her support early on was what gave me the confidence to face the challenges of the years ahead. The next said, in addition to making class entertaining and bringing the old historic material to life, this teacher is also just very caring and understanding, key traits of any great teacher. The next offered this. There have been times when I have questioned whether Harvard-Westlake was worth it, if it was the right choice. The thing that makes me answer yes is the relationships with the adults on campus, particularly this teacher. Another said, not only is he one of the most interesting and engaging teachers I've ever had, but his kind nature and down-to-earth personality brighten the days of everyone around him. And finally, one of the senior prefects said, when I couldn't rely on myself or even my friends, I had this teacher to back me up. When I wanted to give up, he refused to give up on me. Whether you are a new student or starting your 6th year at Harvard-Westlake, this is why you are here, to form relationships with teachers, coaches, mentors who want to know you, to inspire you and believe in you, even when, or especially when, you might be losing belief in yourself. Be ready to respond. Be willing to engage. Be open to inspiration and belief. And teachers, let us not forget that this is why we are here, not primarily to transfer knowledge of the material in our textbooks, not primarily to teach the skills of our disciplines. We do these things as a means to knowing, inspiring, and believing in our students. As school gets underway and life becomes so busy that we don't seem to have time for anything more than what's on the schedule, it's easy to lose sight of why we're here. That sight is before you this morning in these relationships on the stage. If you remember anything from this day and this ceremony, I hope you remember them. And as you are looking ahead to all your plans and goals, I hope you won't forget that you are here to form the same kinds of relationships with your teachers, with your students. With that thought, I will bring this historic ceremony to its conclusion. In a moment, upper school teachers and students will return to classes, and middle school teachers and students will return to buses. Parents, trustees, and other guests are invited to a brief reception under the tent to my right. I will conclude with this. Great things will inevitably be accomplished at our school this year, but I am convinced that they will be greater if we remember that we are here primarily to inspire and to believe in each other. And now I have the honor of proclaiming that Harvard-Westlake's 23rd year has begun. Happy New Year.